You know, when you want to go into that space of consciousness, into that meditative state, away from the mind, it's just a surrender. It comes. You can't force it. So the facets will take you into that space, but sometimes there'll be a lot of thoughts, and sometimes there'll be hardly any. Sometimes you'll expand. But don't be looking for an experience. It comes. And the whole focus of this system is to have that experience permanently. I was talking to a student today, and he said he experienced not being in his body. And after you've been unifying a long time, you're so anchored in love consciousness. If something makes you leave, it's the most uncomfortable thing that exists once you've got stabilized consciousness. And if for some reason you leave, it's a very, very horrible experience. Whereas most humans live out of their bodies. They walk around in their heads. They're not anchored in consciousness. So after a period of time, you know, we talk about stabilizing consciousness, to be at home with you. It will be such a comfortable place that if for some reason you're not there, it's like the weirdest experience. It doesn't even feel like it's you. It's like you've walked out of the house and left the door open and everything blew out after you. Yeah, so you will start to see that when you are anchored in consciousness, you're in peace, you feel centered, you're present in the moment. You're not forcing it, it just is. It's your way of being. That's why we call it unification. Because you are unifying with your own internal divinity. And you stay in a place and you move in consciousness. You become consciousness in action. Here now, here now, here now. And when we move all this stress, it's the fastest way to expand and to find that place to sit. Because that's always there, no? Since you were a child. But often, because there's so much stress, so much anxiety, and the effects of this stress and anxiety is so negative for the central nervous system, for our immune system, and as a consequence, everything. Because I am not disconnected from anything. And if you're not in sync with the universe, with nature, with what's transpiring in a natural environment, if you're out of tune, your environment's out of tune. And you have to see this. We are connected to everything. So we talk about sustainable development, but it absolutely starts with the humans. Because if we remove the humans, the planet recuperates straight away. It's like a big organism that has the capacity to heal. We saw this during the COVID. No, we saw how everything started to rejuvenate. Okay? And our bodies are the same. When we remove all the stress, and the body has the capacity to regenerate. But when we're so full of stress and negativity and angst and worrying, our immune system's like this, and our body's trying to get all the rubbish out, and it doesn't have the possibility to heal. And we get to a point where we start to generate disease. You know, I think cancer is a modern disease, no? It's provoked by stress. So it's important that we start to take responsibility for our planet, starting with us. And when we heal and we start to see the insane behaviour of humanity, when we see the disconnection from nature and the necessity that we have, because nature supports us. You know, if we don't have trees, we don't breathe. If we don't have rivers, we don't survive. You know, and we just take everything so for granted. And we do the same with our bodies. We do the same with everything. Because we're so locked in this bubble of ourselves. But as we start to heal, everything starts to become important. So really humanity needs to make a shift. And it's not about a shift for my country and not for that country. Because it's clear that we're one planet, no? So I think, you know, I really admire people that are working on themselves, because in the end, we're the catalyst of change. It starts with us.
Good morning. I want to ask you, I came here for a personal reason, but I'm wondering, as a professional, I'm a psychologist and I'm a therapist. And it's very similar. The feelings, the sensation, the expression of thoughts. But I would like to see how can I integrate to my practice. It's not that they're the same because the method is totally different. But how can I integrate it to my own practice?
You know, this is for the expansion of consciousness. When you're treating patients, you're making them conscious of what's unconscious. You're working on the circles. This is beyond the circles. This is to remove them. You're trying to fix the personality or the person. I'm trying to eradicate the person. I'm trying to bring them back to a place where they're God, where they're experiencing peace and joy, not so identified with who they think they are, and finding out the big question, who am I? So this is a completely different thing. You'll take a damage, for example, or something that transpired in someone's life. And you'll start to study it. And the people will feel and cry and blah, 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 blah. But you're not replacing it with something. I'm pulling everything out, all my facets, and I'm stabilizing the emptiness. It's completely different. That's why psychologists come here. That's why the psychiatrists come here, so that they can just get rid of everything. And I'm not negating what you do. It's highly viable. You know, it has a lot of value. Because not everyone can do something like this. They don't understand it. Because it's not rational. Whereas psychotherapy is rational. It makes sense. Okay, talk about what happened in your childhood. How does that make you feel? How does that affect your relationships? How is it affecting you in this moment? I say, just move it and forget it. There's another aspect of your ego that you don't need. So this is a complete recycling plant. You know, but your people learn to understand, why am I like that? And what can I do to change? And that happens in this too, you know. People start to see destructive behaviours. They start to see how they're abandoning themselves. But not just here. It comes from within. This system doesn't work on knowledge. It works on wisdom. The wisdom that comes from within a human, that divinity. So, you know, they're completely different things. And usually what you do helps people make the next step. That's why you're here. Why are you here? You can analyse yourself. You know why you do things. But there's something deeper, no? And that's your responsibility. And the more you evolve, the more you experience that freedom, you'll be talking from a different space. You know, lots of people go and become psychologists, and it's part of a process for them. Same with psychiatrists. It's not that they have this clean window. They have the desire to help and the willingness to give. And usually they're pretty smart, no? Like they're capable of observing themselves. But they're not empty. You know, I'm empty. If you do this, anything, no? It's empty, completely. And this is dense. It's so full, you can't hear anything. No escucha nada. That's because it's completely empty.
I would like to ask human beings, I saw that more in women, but in general, are we able to love completely a son, give everything to a man, and even to a pet? Why is it so hard to love ourselves?
You know, do we love? Or we have control? Do we love? Or we're playing a role? Do we love unconditionally? No. It's a role. We love, of course. There's no question. But until I love myself unconditionally, I can't love anyone unconditionally. And parents will swear, I love my children unconditionally. But the minute they do something wrong, they're on top of them. Because they want to control them. Because they perceive them as an extension of them. They don't see them as little individuals that actually have nothing to do with them, just a few aspects. They're completely different. And we don't give them the freedom to explore that either. Why? Because we're not unconditional. We're too connected. We're too attached. We think they reflect our function as a parent. Okay, and that's the role the women have. The caretaker, the nurturer. You know, women are naturally caretakers. They have things within. Imagine the baby comes from within you. That connection is very strong. And of course there's a lot of love. Of course you love. But it's not unconditional. So what you're saying is, it's easy for me to give love here, but I'm not giving it here. And that's a reflection of the lack of unconditionality. Because people that have compassion, people that love unconditionally, love themselves. And that's one of the hardest things for any human to do. You know? And different people have different ways of showing. Some men love their children so much, but they can't even communicate with them. They can't even open their mouths. But if someone hurt them, they'd go and shoot them in the foot. I learnt that in a meeting. It's the Mexican love. Boom. Oh, now you know I love you. But if you ask them, they'd say, I love my son. I'd die for my son. But they maybe don't even talk to them. So we all have these ideas of what love is. But until there's unconditional love, we don't have unconditional love.
How will be a relationship, partner's relationship in consciousness? Because, as we said, we have the idea Disney, the Mexican soap opera, but we don't have a model. How is a conscious relationship?
You know what the thing is? You have to find two people focused on consciousness that are taking responsibility for their growth. That doesn't mean it's necessarily easier. But if each person is taking responsibility, you can find a very mature relationship. It's because when someone feels good within themselves, they're not always taking from the other person. But when one of the partners is not feeling good within themselves, they're always taking and trying to pull the other one down. So you have to find a place where you have two people focused on growth, but also giving freedom to each other. You know, not on top of each other all the time. Two individuals that are empowered, that can enjoy each other, that can be good company, that allows the other person freedom. And then you come together, you know, for everything partners do. And it doesn't destroy the romance. It doesn't destroy the intimacy. You know, most partners, after a long period, have so much negativity. so much resentment, so many complaints and lists of what he did wrong or what she did wrong, and this doesn't serve. It becomes stagnant, the relationship. And this idea, oh, we stay together for the kids, and they're killing each other, and the kids are watching. Oh, this must be love. You know? So we have to create new relationships that are focused on consciousness, focused on giving to each other, praising each other, and helping each other to grow. That's the ideal relationship. And it's not very common. It's not very common.
Which one is the purpose of living our human experience?
There's absolutely none. None that's important. You're not going to graduate from life because you're already what you seek. So what do we do with this experience? Well, the majority of us suffer, get addicted, feel like victims, blame each other. Then we get bored with that and we start to change. And it's that change that makes us appreciate. It's that change that sets us free. Because life's to be enjoyed. It's meant to be a creative experience, to experience this human condition, but in the highest form of freedom. So usually we go through all the dense stuff and then we come out of that and we start to really enjoy. But we do everything back to front. And we have to start differently. We have to teach children to love themselves, not to put so much pressure on them, to compete, to be the best, to do well, to succeed. Our crazy ideas of what success is. We have to encourage them to be the best of them, to trust in themselves, not to compare, to be anchored in consciousness. We have to teach them how to be happy. This is what we need to change. The education system has to change because it's so antiquated, it just doesn't work anymore. Children kill themselves through pressure. Everything's so competitive. And there's like one box and one race that you have to win. And not everyone's open to the race. Some people can't even run. They're completely different. And we can't make one thing better than the other. Because really, for the world to function, it's duplicit, no? It's not just one-pointed. It has many aspects. It has many aspects. And we have to respect all aspects. But I think the most important thing is we have to learn to be present and live in appreciation and enjoy our lives. Become the love, give love, be excellent at whatever we're doing. Because we want to be excellent. Because we love ourselves. So we need to create consciousness. So the world's an evolution. We are evolving. But is there a purpose? Are you going to succeed? And you're going to graduate? And you get to heaven and you get a diploma? And you get to sit next to Jesus? No. If you want to sit next to Jesus, you have to get enlightened.
How can I avoid to get in routine and bored of my days?
You know, if you're in consciousness, and I guess you get sick of me saying this, but you can enjoy anything. You know, I'll give you an example. Many farmers, for example, they just enjoy their day. They do the same thing every day. They're in the present moment. They don't have any expectations. And they go home. Their wife's there. They've got the kids. You know, the reason we suffer is we have so many expectations of what we should be doing, how we should be looking, what we should be achieving. So there's pressure, 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 pressure. And we get bored because it's just like we're going in circles and we're not achieving anything. But to achieve is an illusion. To enjoy is the essence. Just to enjoy each moment. You know, I come here every day and I say the same thing and I'm happy. And I say it and say it and say it. And then 5 years later someone says, oh, I just got it. Now I know what you were saying. But I like to say it. But I'm saying the same thing. I say it in a million ways, but I'm just saying the same thing eternally. And my teacher's the same. They're happy people. They're doing the same thing. They're saying the same thing. They're giving. You know, so if you're bored in your life, you're locked in your head, you're not enjoying your life because you're not enjoying the person you're living with. And who is that person? Betchy. Yeah, because you're living with yourself. Yeah. Mommy, they're never going to get it. She's asleep. You guys get it. My students are exceptional. They're quick. Yeah.
Where resentment comes from?
Expectation, ownership, ideas of what I should receive, what should happen, and because you didn't do that, I'm resented. Because if you love me, you would do this, 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 and this. Because there's no unconditionality. Unconditional love doesn't know resentment. Only institutions know resentment. And the greatest institution is marriage. We get married, we are an institution. This is the rules of our institution. And I expect, if you love me, you will do this, 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 and this. And if not, I will be resented. Then I'll go to work. This is my next institution. And I'll give and give and give. And I'll get elevated in my position. And I'll get more money. And then I'll become the president. And if all of this doesn't happen, I'll get resented. Or I'll go to university and I'll get a career. And I'll graduate. I'll get a great job. And then I'll be happy. and then I'll get married, and then I'll have children, and then I'll be happy. And everything's external. It's all to do with an institution. And we forget that the only thing that we can rely on is ourselves. How we're feeling with ourselves. If we love ourselves, my favourite saying, if we love ourselves, if we're complete within ourselves, we never get resented. Because we're so complete that we don't need people to do certain things. We say, this is what we do, let's do it. If you don't want to do it, you can go. It's your choice. And there's no resentment. There's no should. You should. You should respect me. You should keep me. You should pay for me. You should appreciate me. You owe me. And we end up resented.
Come visit our webpage for books, movies, and our wonderful retreat centers. Isha's simple yet powerful system is transforming lives around the world.